Namaskar, warm greetings from DELNET Developing Library Network, New Delhi, ECLES Skill Tech University, Mumbai, and IEEE Computer Society, Madras section, India. Distinguished speaker, Ms. Garima Gujral, a taxonomist, ontologist, and subject matter expert for e-commerce taxonomy design and governance. Joining us from Munich, Germany, Dr. Manju Kalita, Chief Librarian, ECLES Skill Tech University, Mumbai, Mr. H.R. Mohan, past President CSI and past Chair, IEEE CS, IEEE PCS Madras, and ACM Chennai, representing IEEE CS Madras today, Shri K. Jayakumar, President DELNET, Dr. S.S. Murthy, Vice President DELNET, Dr. P.R. Goswami, Treasurer, officials and members of collaborating institutions, heads of institutions, including the directors, principals, deans, HODs, distinguished librarians, library and information science professionals, knowledge professionals, computer science specialists, data analysts, AI experts, faculty, researchers, scholars, students, my colleagues here at DELNET New Delhi, and also its coordination units at Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune, ladies and gentlemen. I, Sangeeta Kaul, Director DELNET, on behalf of DELNET and also our collaborating institutions, including ECLES Skill Tech University, Mumbai, and IEEE Computer Society Madras section, extends a very warm, hearty welcome to each one of you for joining us today online from various parts of the country and many other countries across the globe, including Bangladesh, Bhutan, Canada, Indonesia, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, USA, and UAE for an enlightening session on knowledge graphs connecting information over the semantic web, which will shortly be delivered by Ms. Garima Gujral, our esteemed speaker of the day today. We are much grateful to each one of you for your overwhelming response, as more than 1,600 participants have registered for this session today. At the very outset, on behalf of DELNET, and we would like to express a very warm, sincere gratitude to our collaborating institutions, including ECLES Skill Tech University, Mumbai, and IEEE Computer Society Madras section for joining hands with DELNET in organizing today's program. We have much greatly valued the cooperation and collaboration extended to DELNET. We also convey our warm, sincere appreciation and thanks to the distinguished speaker, a young enterprising Ms. Garima Gujral, for acceding to our request to be there with us today and for her time and efforts in joining us all the way from Munich, Germany to share her expertise in the most emerging trend and technology of knowledge graphs, which holds a great significance for the libraries and also for the information seekers. Thank you so very much indeed, Garima, for your very, very gracious presence and for your very warm, cooperation extended to each one of us. I have now a pleasure in requesting Dr. Manju Kalita, the Chief Librarian at ECLES Skill Tech University, Mumbai, to kindly introduce our speaker, Ms. Garima Gujral. May I request you, Dr. Manju, to kindly do the honor of introducing Ms. Garima Gujral. It's over to you.
Hello, can you hear me? Am I audible?
It's perfectly fine, yes.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon to one and all. I, Dr. Manju Kalita, the librarian of ECLES Skill Tech University, Mumbai. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Sangeeta for giving us this opportunity to engage in this wonderful collaboration. So today, I have the great pleasure of introducing our esteemed resource person, Garima Gujral. So Garima Gujral is a taxonomist, ontologist, subject expert in e-commerce, taxonomy design and governance. Her research interests include knowledge graphs, ontology, structured and unstructured knowledge management. She was awarded a gold medal for Masters in Library and Information Science in the batch of 2018-20 batch at the Tata Institute of Social Science, Mumbai, India. Indian Research Award 2022 by International Research Association, London, UK, and Iconic Women Creating a Difference Award by Women in Economic Forum. She has authored over 50 publications in multidisciplinary domains such as health informatics, knowledge management, library and information science, digital divide, and scientometrics. Garima holds the vision of contributing towards a feminist approach to technology through launching a series of concrete and transformative action to achieve irreversible progress towards gender equality. She has been passionate about enhancing and exploring the changing role of women in tech and has been mentoring several young scholars to take their leap and contribute to the scholarly publication domain. She has been active volunteer to several organizations and works towards eradicating the digital divide. So with this, without further excitement, please join me in welcoming Ms. Garima. So Ms. Garima, over to you.
Thank you so much for the warm
It's indeed
welcome.
a pleasure. Indeed a pleasure to once again welcome you, Garima, and requesting you to kindly accept. You have already accepted our invite, and now requesting you to accept. We have sent it across to you, request to share your screen as a presenter, and we really look forward now to hearing from you. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I'm really grateful to the organizers today, especially to Dr. Manju, Dr. Sangeeta for collaborating with me over the past few months so that we could be here today, helping me in preparing for today's session. I'm really grateful and excited, and thank you so much to all the attendees who are here, who've taken out time to hear me out. So without much ado, I'll get right to our session and get started. Please let me know if my screen is visible.
If you can put it in the slide mode, Garima, we would appreciate that.
Okay. Is it visible?
Perfect. Perfect, very perfect.
Okay, yeah. So as you all are aware about our topic for today, knowledge graphs, connecting information over the semantic web. This might seem like a very buzz term or something that is quite technical, but to our surprise, it's something which we are interacting with on our day-to-day basis. It's something we are using on our each and every app that we come across throughout the day. So before we get right into it, we have prepared some poll questions to understand what we all want from this webinar, what our understanding of knowledge graphs is. So before we move into it, can we start with the questions, ma'am?
Surely, indeed. We are just going to put the very first poll question, and the question is, what is your primary goal for attending this particular webinar session? We request all our attendees come forward and kindly cast your vote. What is your primary goal for attending this webinar? And this is what our distinguished speaker may like to know from each one of you. So please come forward. We could see 14% of you have voted as of this moment. It has now moved to 22%. Be a little more faster so that our speaker may, carry on with the session. 31% of you voted. We have to at least make it to 50%. Requesting you are being prompted with 5 choices, and please pick up the one which is just in tune with what you have felt while attending this webinar session here today. What has been your primary goal for attending, the expectations that you have, from the session? 42% of you have voted, requesting each one of you, please come forward and be participative. This is now inching towards a 50%. It's still 48%. Please come forward to make it at least half of you should give us the feedback. And thank you so very much. It has now touched the 50%. And this is to divulge the findings to you now, Garima. The first one, 23%. I will go for the highest one. 44% of the participants have said, which has now moved to 43%, have said that they have, the primary goal for attending this session is exploring tools and technologies, followed by 22% who have opined that for learning the basics, followed by 18% understanding specific applications. And then we have got 9% who have said it's a general interest that they hold on the topic, and 7% have said networking with other professionals. So that's for you to know. 43% exploring tools and technologies.
Great. Yeah, that's great. And I'm so glad because this session offers something for everybody. So we have the session planned in a way that all our goals will be meeting through this 1 hour that we'll engage together. We can now move to the next question, which is regarding how many of you know what a knowledge graph is, or have heard about a knowledge graph before?
The question is now getting flashed, and we could already see that 11% of you have voted, 24% now, 28. Please be more faster than ever before. 35% of you have voted. Have you ever heard of knowledge graphs ever before you got this invite of joining this Garima session here today? 44% of you have voted. Please kindly try to make it at least 50%. We are inching closer to that mark. 49% of you have voted. Help us in making it 50%. Thank you so very much. 50%, and here is the outcome, Garima, for you to know. 57% have mentioned that they have never heard of the term before, knowledge graphs, which is now 58%. 58% no, and the remaining, it's now, 58 versus 42. 58% have said that they had never heard this term before, and 42% have said that yes, they have been knowing about this term.
Okay, that's great. As I also mentioned in the beginning of the session, a lot of us might not have heard knowledge graphs or what they are and how they function, but unknowingly we all are interacting with them every day, and as we go through the course of presentation, we'll get to know. So yeah, now we can dive right into the session. It was good knowing everybody's perspectives and expectations from the session. Okay, so I'll briefly walk everyone through the agenda of this session. We'll begin with a brief background and history of web, followed by an introduction to knowledge graphs, its key characteristics, the various components of knowledge graphs, our day-to-day applications and uses, and coming to the part on how to build knowledge graphs and what are the best practices when we do that, and what are the various challenges that we face, followed by future trends and way forward. And then we'll have a question answer, an interactive round open for all of us. So yeah, let's go right away. Okay, so every time I begin my presentations, this is one of my favorite images that I like to bring into everyone's notice. So if we see at this picture, number one, which is some random pieces of blocks lying away that makes no sense and might as well be like a waste material lying around. But through following the series of steps, step 2, where we try to sort them on the pieces of colors, the sizes, then we sort them in the step 3 into a more visually appealing so that it's easy. Step 4, we try to analyze and understand like what is the best use we can bring out of these. And step 5, when we actually come out with a Lego house, we get to understand that, yeah, this is something that finally makes sense. And this is something we all deal with a day-to-day basis until we take these processes in our mind. Random disparate pieces of data makes no sense. And once there's a relationship, there's an interlinkaging between the blocks, it tells a story, it tells something. The Lego house on the step 5 could tell a separate story to each one of us. For a kid, it may be a block house it made. For someone of us, it may be similar to a house we've ever visited. So each of us would have a different story based on the relations we perceive with respect to this in our head, the interlinkages it has to our linked experiences in life. And as we go ahead, this figure is something which, instead of the Lego, is something what happens within our mind. On our daily interactions, every second of the day, we come across some information, some data, and we process this knowledge in our head, in our mind, based on our capacities, our past experiences, and we make some decisions. It's like over the ages and our experiences, we've gathered layers of knowledge in our head. For example, for a kid, if we ask them, like a very young kid, where are your eyes? They immediately point towards their face. Or if we ask, where's the fan? They might not know a fan, what is the function, what is the usage, what is the electricity behind it, but they just point to the ceiling. Similarly, we, as compared to kid, over the years of knowledge and layers that are formed, we might have a different past experiences. If somebody asks us, what is an eye? We might be able to describe, oh, it's an organ, sensory organ, which helps us see. What are the functions? We might perceive eyes in the different eye colors, the shapes. So that's what knowledge is individual and perceived to every person. And just like a kid, how we train them over the years about providing them different data points, different actions, and more layers of knowledge, layers in terms of the functions, the usage, the visual, it forms into knowledge. And it's the same thing we need to do with machines as well. It's the same thing we needed it to think like a human, to think like us. And that's where the whole buzz term of AI comes into place. Like, we are training the machine or the computer to replicate the thought process of and knowledge of a human. Moving ahead. So this was a brief background about when we talk about knowledge graph and how knowledge builds in each one of us, and what is the expectations we do when we think about knowledge modeling when it comes to a machine. Now, coming back to the context of web and semantic web, if we trace down the history of web, we started from a static, basic web screen, the Web 1.0, to a more interactive, uh, dynamic web. And then we come across the semantic web, which has innumerable features, like it's decentralized, it has AI integrations, it has chatbots, LLMs that we interact with, and it's almost able to perform complex functions and understanding. So as we see, we started from the basic Web 1.0. We moved ahead to more complex structure where it was offering us paths or search query results in terms of advertisements, or even if we could make a spelling mistake here, if we see, it was able to perceive and said, did you mean used books instead of a spelling error with books? And yes, then evolved the more complex version of web where we had separate disparate sections, our search results column, our search options columns in terms of news, blogs, search on the basis of timings, and the ads column on a separate side. And let's look at today's web. So this is a screenshot from yesterday, how the web performed when I searched the query Albert Einstein. And you see, it's not just giving me a basic search which tells who is, it's connecting different aspects which tells about an overview, his education, relationships, the recent articles, and yeah, more and more details. And when I click on each of these tabs, I can get exact information about his education history and so on. And yeah, so this is something which is built on Google's knowledge graph. When we search for a query as simple as Albert Einstein, it's connecting different aspects related to him, like where he was born, his family, education, different awards. And as you see, we also see at the bottom, people also searched for more and more scientists who might be related. Like, how does the web know that if we are interested in scientists, we might also be interested to know about Isaac Newton, or that might also be helpful. This is the same example sometimes that we come across while shopping online. If you're buying a cell phone or mobile phone, you see it starts showing people also bought a screen guard, a charger, like, so it's more than just a marketing technique. There's a lot of background recommendation that goes behind that it's able to recommend, or phone covers that it starts recommending. And how does the web know me as a girl would prefer some different kind of phone covers, whereas every time my brother logs in, it's recommending very different. It's picking on all our data points, our demographics, age, location, and so on. And yeah, I ran a similar search query for the artist Leonardo da Vinci, trying to understand. And in this case, we see there's a more different tabs that we come across where there's more sections with respect to artworks or the books he's written, the history or the period he was popular. We all know he's through the Renaissance period, and we see more and more information and about him. But a very surprising thing is on the bottom, if you see, we also see Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, is it just linking the names and so on? So this is the visual layer which every one of us come in contact with almost daily. Every time we make a Google search, this is the background that goes at the back end. And yeah, now I'd like to take you to the background or the back end of it, like how does that work? So as we saw Da Vinci, and I'll go back again, when we look at the artworks, the top artwork, Mona Lisa, pops up. And if we try to look in through Mona Lisa and what would be the different interlinkaging or relationships Mona Lisa could have. Okay, Da Vinci painted it. Currently, it's in Louvre, Paris Museum. Paris is located in France, and Paris is famous for Eiffel Tower. We see these are the different aspects that linkaging all these data points. And as simple as we see another entity at the bottom, James, who's also lived in Paris and he likes Mona Lisa, who's a friend of Lily. All these neural networks, which our brain is capable of making very effortlessly, we never realize how much we link a particular thing in our mind and the various aspects of it. And when we want the machine to replicate that, it needs a human intervention to define those relationships. Because at the growth of web, which is taking place at a humongous rate, it's impossible unless we follow a structured data or a structured format. Similarly, for our libraries, if it's like a small library, it's very easy to specify, okay, these are the books for mathematics or physics, but when we deal and manage large libraries on a day-to-day basis, we all need a classification system in our mind, a system, particular metadata points, the author, publisher, the editor, what kind of book is it, hardbound or paperback. We have some fixed standards when it comes to creating those classification schemas. Same as for the web. We need a fixed standard which is defined in terms of triples, where we define in terms of subject, predicate, and object, where Mona Lisa is our subject who is related to Da Vinci because he painted. And currently the painting is in a museum in Paris. So this is how it takes place. And I'll talk more in detail about these triples that I mentioned. Great. Going ahead, yeah, here's the more formal definition of knowledge graphs and what they are. They are graph-based data models which represent knowledge as entities and the relationships between it. And when I talk about knowledge graphs, they're way more than a visualization. Sometimes it's confused as, okay, it's a visualization for easier understanding. It's way more than that. It captures like really complex relationships and meaning behind all these entities. And it has been able to support advanced applications and recommendation systems. So on everyday basis, our Netflix recommendation, Amazon shopping, Google recommendation systems, the food delivery apps, they're all built on a knowledge graph, which facilitates both structured as well as unstructured information. For example, when we have different profiles under Netflix, how is it that for everybody, the recommendations would be different based on their search patterns or the things they've watched before? Yes. And yeah, there's also another example of a knowledge graph. This time I've tried to put together in a sense of movies where we have Leonardo DiCaprio the different movies he starred in, with respect to the directors he's worked in, the genres. So as you see, a lot of these entities are interlinked to each other. Here on the left column, we see a person who's watched these three movies, Inception, Dark Knight, the behind it. Why is it the next day he would get a recommendation for Interstellar? So this is all the neural networks or the entities at the back end that's building in these recommendation systems. And if we look at this right now, this looks like a very cluttered or a confusing network where it's going into multiple directions, but actually it is in a very smooth layer where we usually have these layers. We begin from the content and data layer. We try to build it in these graph layers where we have all these triples that comes into place. Then comes our conceptual and linguistic models, like how is it that people relate to it, or how is it that people actually call it, because a scientific name for something as simple as I remember for my work when we had around the time of COVID, we had masks. So people would just run a simple query of mask. Nobody would go on a website and search like surgical or the model number or the actual medical terminology when it comes to masks. So we also need to keep in mind the linguistic or conceptual way it's referred to. And then comes our semantic, where it's defined on the basis of meanings, and our application layer that is the final product, and it's something which resembles a human brain. I hope we got a brief understanding of what a knowledge graph is and how it works. And I'd like to quickly walk you through what are the key characteristics of knowledge graphs. So knowledge graphs are some graph-based neural networks which give us a structured representation of concepts. It could be any concept. A knowledge graph could be, for a school, a database of all their students, or for an organization, HR database. Even every one of us have our own systems at home, how we keep things, what we do, how we organize our shelves, which might have an unsaid knowledge graph in our minds, where we know, okay, this shelf is where I put all my trousers for, this is where the shoes will go. So yes, next comes the interconnected data. So when the web 1.0 came into place, data existed in separate silos. And now we've advanced and evolved towards these interconnected data silos, which is connecting every entity. Knowledge graphs are highly scalable and flexible, and they facilitate advanced analytics. Now they're supporting AI and ML more and more, to the extent with tools like ChatGPT or LLMs, where we are interacting with it literally like a human. We're asking it to give us recommendations, prepare an itinerary for a trip, or so on. They are dynamic and evolving. I would always say that knowledge graphs is something, it can never be a complete graph. You'll never say, okay, this is a domain of knowledge or a topic I picked, and now it's finished. You will always need to have it evolving and dynamic. Another example from my day-to-day thing comes is when we organize the taxonomies on the e-commerce for Amazon, especially for Apple iPhones. Every year there's a new model that's being launched. So it's never that we could say, okay, the iPhone store is complete and done. We need to keep that research going, the ability for the tool to research and catch up and make these new additions. And last but not the least comes to the point of visualization, where based on the backend triples that we prepare, it's able to give us a visualization that's easier for us to make sense of. Okay. Great. Moving ahead. I won't go too much deep into this slide. This is again full combination of knowledge graph and its different aspects when it comes to it, where it includes both our explicit and tacit knowledge. Explicit knowledge could be published knowledge in the form of books, papers, research, articles, and so on. But knowledge graphs are also capable of capturing our tacit knowledge, which is coming in thoughts of our thoughts, ideas, and that's what more and more organizations nowadays are looking for. We want to give from a more industrial economy, we're moving towards a knowledge economy where we are paying more and more attention to the knowledge sources, the intellectual capital each of us bring into. Yeah, that's there. And this has an overview about the different aspects of it and who the person who works in it and so on. Okay, so that's a lot of me talking. We kind of understood what they are, what are the key features knowledge graphs hold, but now let's try to trace and go a little back in history to understand like where is it that this whole knowledge graph came into. A lot of us feel it's something which is a new technology or something like a cutting edge thing, but when we actually look back at the history, we see the inception goes way back into ages in the year 1736. Then came, and the first time it was actually initiated formally was in Netherlands in the year 1982, followed by the resource description framework, which all of us information professionals are very familiar in our day-to-day basis, came in. And then comes the most popular semantic web by Sir Tim Berners-Lee. And 2012 was when the first knowledge graph was introduced by Google. And that's when it gained way more popularity in terms of our day-to-day interactions. And then 2018, the formal GQL manifesto was published, which serves as like a blueprint for all of us. Going ahead to the different components of knowledge graphs. Okay, here we might feel all these terms are quite technical or subject specific when it comes to the, what are we talking about, the classes, the relationship types, the categories, the data sources, the graph databases. But as LIS professionals, we often deal with these terms on a day-to-day basis, where we talk about the classes, the subclasses, while we classify our resources and libraries. So actually, all of this is built on the core of our classification schema. It's built on the core of the work we do every day, cataloging and classification. No matter how many new terms or advanced terminologies or processes come into place, honestly, the bread and butter and the things that go in the back end of all of this is the two cores, which is cataloging and classification. And similarly, when we look at the components of knowledge graph, it comprises of classes, relationship types, the different categories, data sources, graph databases that take place. And yeah, this is another instance of a knowledge graph, or I would say a more simpler ontology or a classification schema that I've tried to make, where I'm just simply tried to create a parent-child relationships here. If I talk about electronics, electronics can be kitchen electronics, your automobile or car electronics. Here I try to just classify it by audio. When we talk about audio, okay, there are earphones and headphones. Earphones could be wired or wireless and so on. And as you see, there's a relationship with as a main class and a subclass that follows. And then at the end, we see in yellow the circles where we actually have these model where, okay, wireless earphones, Apple earpods, or wired, so on. So this could be perceived as a very simple or a starting point of our taxonomy or ontological structure that we try to build. And again, this is a very something which I relate to a lot. Often we think, okay, taxonomy, we hear this term and we relate it to the plant taxonomy that we all learn, the kingdom, phylum, and these, and we feel, okay, this is something which takes place in a very formal setting, but and would follow a typical standard. But honestly, with the growing kind of resources, like how we began in our libraries, it was just restricted to books. And now we have hundreds of ebooks or electronic resources to follow, and we need to evolve and come up with different standards for it. Similarly, anybody who thinks taxonomies could be universal is invited to put a load of dishes in somebody else's kitchen, which we'll look through in the next example, the kitchen example. Here are two examples of classification systems or taxonomies alternatively. So on the first one, on the top right side, if we see, we have our cookware. We try to classify it on the basis of location. Okay, cookware in the lower shelf, cutlery tray, which is next to the sink, and cutlery in the tray beside the stove. And we've defined it as, okay, the pans and this big spoons, tongs, followed by kids' cutlery, tongs. And, you know, on the bottom, when we see these interconnecting lines, the big red noodle pot is connected to pasta tongs. Why? Because that is something where its usage comes into place. We add another layer of hierarchy. So instead of just using a flat structure, now we're trying to make it more three-dimensional, I'd say. Like, okay, we have a noodle cookware, which includes the pot and the tongs. And say we have a coated pan and a wooden spoon, which are our frying utensils. Our mind would, even if they are stored separately, but we know, okay, if I'm frying today, I need this pan and this particular spoon to use that. So similarly works our ontology and taxonomy forms. And I always try using more and more real life examples so that we can relate and understand better. And if I'd like to like close up between the differences between the two, I would say taxonomy is a menu or a classification list that we read in a restaurant, where we might have things like the main course, starters, desserts, drinks. But if we talk about an ontology, it's like a recipe. It's a dish where you have different ingredients that come together, different instructions in terms of the type of heat, the amount of time, the if you need an oven or microwave. So here we're combining not just the dish, but various concepts, and we're trying to give them into a structure. We're interlinking the relationships between them. I hope that's something which is clear, because years ago I came across this difference with a menu and a recipe, and every time on a day-to-day basis when I work on both, I try to bring this thought back into mind and take it from there. Yes. After understanding what knowledge graph are, what are the components that goes behind it, it's time to understand and look at the functions. Like, why do we actually need it? Like, what is it serving for us? One thing that we've been talking for a long time is unifying structured and both unstructured data. They are fabricating knowledge workflows in a more and more collaborative manner, where if we put in a search query, it's responding to us in a collaborative manner. Easier search and retrieval, that's SEO, always use search and retrieval. And as on our LIS side, we go towards building our library archives and systems. We search and retrieval systems is something that we need to keep in mind and is now a core function that we need to take into account for our library users. And last but not the least comes our enhanced user or customer experience, for which we do and which comes into place. And this is something, as we, even if we go back to the history of Dr. Ranganathan's 5 laws of libraries, where he said, save the time of the user, it's where it all originates from. Great. Moving ahead. So I have few examples of knowledge graphs where they've been implemented in libraries. I've only put 3 examples here. The first one is WorldCat. We're all aware of it. It's the largest library catalog. And how they've implemented is that the knowledge graph links authors on the basis of work, subjects, and the library holdings. It's providing a very interconnected view of the library's resources at the moment, which has highly enhanced the discovery of resources. It has improved their cataloging, and at the end, provided better user experience. The Stanford libraries are also using knowledge graphs, and for their vast collections, also Europeana, which is a digital platform providing access to books, music, art forms from not only just from libraries, but from archives and museums, is also using knowledge graphs that integrates this metadata from various cultural and heritage institutions and providing it to us. And even the metadata, if we actually go deep, would be very different for something which is music related or a book. A music wouldn't require number of pages. Maybe it would be measured in the timing. Is it a 4-minute song or what? So on. And I've also heard the British Library has also been adopting knowledge graphs. And apart from that, all our e-learning platforms like Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, they've all are built on knowledge graphs. I found an example of a LinkedIn graphs where it's how it's connecting various aspects of often when we try to go on searching for a job, it just shows us 10 of your university alumni worked in this company. Or when we look at a job skills, it'll show, okay, 7 out of 8 skills match. And you'll be surprised to see on the side, they'll also have an advertisement of, say, data science, like, oh, maybe you can take up this short course, which will increase your chances of getting hired. Linking us to prospects of recruiting or hiring managers or our co-workers. That's how an example of LinkedIn graph works. Yes. So let's get to know a little bit about what are the different tools for creating knowledge graphs. Initially, it required like really complex coding knowledge and so on. But nowadays, there are so many tools which wouldn't even require a very, nuanced understanding of codes or the knowledge organized systems or REF schema, Sparkle. They work more on a UI basis, a graphical interface, where we can share our data and try to build our own knowledge graphs. And I've listed a couple of tools which are quite popular. And Protege, I think it's something that I work on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, there are plenty more to explore. And a lot of these have really easy self-learning modules and videos available on YouTube as well, which we can take advantage from and start doing it on our pace. How do we actually build it? Like, okay, I am very impressed by the idea of knowledge graphs, but now I know the tools, but it cannot be like I take in 5 concepts and just build something. So 10 steps that we need to keep in mind when it comes to building a knowledge graphs are identifying the needs and requirements of our user. Who are we building it for? say it's for a university library, the needs of our user would be different from the needs of a school library, or so on. If it's like a medical library, the needs would be really different. And if there are doctors who are coming for their referencing, you need to first and foremost understand the needs and requirements, collect and analyze the data points, data cleaning. If you remember, going back to the first slide where we saw a bunch of blogs just lying around versus when they were cleaned and organized, how much more sense it made. Creating our semantic data models. Semantic data models is nothing, just meaningfully organizing all these data concepts, integrating and aligning those points. If I'm doing it for books, integrating the subjects areas, the schemas and the basis of that. Developing our architecture and search layer, the layer where actually users will interact from. That's so nobody expects us to build it from the scratch, implement. Of course, we all need to work hand in hand with people who are specialized software engineers, where their role comes in with developing that architecture for us, increasing the usability. We'll need more and more designers who come at this stage, and comes to the point of knowledge graph maintenance and governance. Like I shared, a graph can never be complete, so constant maintenance, governance, evaluation needs to take place. Let's look at some of the best practices. Best practices in terms of, I would, just a minute, yeah. I would always say when we start, we should start small and scale gradually. So if today I decide to build a knowledge graph for my library archives, don't go for the entire collection. Maybe start small, test your pilot, and then we can scale up from there. Prioritize the use cases. We can start by studying our user patterns and data points. Like, what is the subject area where we see the highest number of clicks for user? What are the research papers or links the students are downloading the most? Developing and testing those prototypes, identifying a target audience, and comes to the point of agile practices. This, I feel, apart from all the technicalities of the programs, the agile manner we need to work it. Let's get into a realistic approach and not just take a goal of, okay, today I start and by next month I'm delivering a knowledge graph. We need to work in an agile manner, set small goals. Okay, week 1, I want my data cleared. Week 2, I want the need assessment to be done. And we can have agile smart goals and work in that manner. Understanding our data at the first and synchronizing it universally. These are some of the best practices that come really in handy when we work towards building one graph. And yeah, okay, so now comes to the point, our graph is ready. As I discussed, a graph development always takes place in a collaborative manner, and there are various stakeholders that come into place. Also, the different stages. Here, if we see, when we look at the life cycle of a graph, we have a user loop, which are users and so on. Then comes our automation loops, where we need the expertise of our computer science professionals who are able to ingest, clean, and transform, data engineer, machine learning ops, and so on. And the expert loops, where comes into the role of us information professionals, where we take into account the different inventories, we extract the knowledge points and create that. And this life cycles, as we see, it's these interconnected loops, keeps working, so on and so forth. And when the time for implementation comes, there are 3 phases that it follows, from the foundation, evaluation, and integration phase. I wouldn't go too much into detail of this with respect to time. And often then comes our graph architecture layer. We also discussed a similar layer in the beginning with respect to the data sources, the infrastructure, and finally the consumer layers, or our beneficiaries layer, the one that we interact with. Of course, with something as complex as this comes various challenges, and several challenges in terms of the integration and complexity issues, handling large data sets. How do we keep up with our ontology design, the linkaging, and also handling uncertainties? Also comes our privacy and security concerns, because we know the higher chances of frauds and taking place with everything shifting online. Also user adoption and training. That also takes a different phases. If we go and inform our users, okay, we're not functioning the old way, this is the new thing, even they wouldn't very open-heartedly accept it. So need to start slow and design an adoption strategy as well in our mind. Yes, this there. And moving ahead to the next steps, some of the next steps and way forward for knowledge graphs. Now that they've been there, we have several of cutting edge technologies that are coming on. And one of the next steps, I always start from the 10th, which is continuous learning and autonomous knowledge graphs, automation of this process, because the scale at which we are growing, we can only do it manually to a point. We also need to integrate automation after that. The federation knowledge graphs for interoperability that takes place. It's, as I said, it's a collaborative process. So it's not just the owners of an information professional. We can also take insights from our users and follow on those insights and prepare and get better. Advanced machine learning integration taking place, so on. These were the references that I used for my presentation. And yeah, thank you so much. Now I'd like to open the stage for some questions so that we also have some time to interact and take in. Yes, of course, let's stay connected after this. I'm sure 1 hour is not enough to retain and grasp all these information. We're always free to connect over email or LinkedIn and share our thoughts, any further questions, and so on. Thank you. If there are any
Thank you very much, Garima. What an exceptionally brilliant talk that you have delivered and interwoven this entire thing, and greatly impressed many of us. This is just to inform once again that Garima has been a library and information science professional, an outstanding, brilliant, youngster who graduated only in 2020 from TIS Mumbai. And today's presentation speaks volumes of your commitment and the work that you are, enormous work that you're doing, brilliant work. And you are an inspiration to many of our youngsters here. Thank you very much, Garima. Indeed, truly appreciated, not only the presentation, but also the work that you are engaged with.
Thank you so much.
And we are extremely, extremely delighted that we have been able to cross paths and have been able to discover you. Thank you very much, because only a library professional, you have interwoven, such a lucid talk, because you had an vast experience, also at the same time, and knowledge of the libraries and the new emerging trends. You have been able to really relate it so well and able to present it, so well, brilliantly well. Thank you so very much indeed. We are short of words to express how appreciative we are of the work that you are doing it, and you have miles to go. You are a shining star, and we wish you the very best, and extremely happy and delighted that you have been able to take out time being there with each one of us and to share your vast experience. And as you have said, that this is just a beginning that we have made today, and many of us may like to really get helped, by the work that you're doing and the experience and the, the kind of expertise that you hold now. Thank you so very much, Garima, for this. And this is to really appreciate the work and that you have been able to be here with us. And I would just now like to request our users over here, our attendees who are here on this platform, there are a couple of questions I believe that Garima may like to pose, and one of them is, have you used any tools or platforms related to knowledge graphs? I believe we have to ask, our attendees if anyone has tried out, using any of the knowledge graph tools. Perhaps, Garima, at some point of time, we may like to have a session by you, especially on the tools. As you said that you are using, Pratyog, over there, and maybe some other tools. Foremost important, if you can just get through the light before we make the floor open for questions for our attendees to interact with you directly. Are these solutions, are these tools, any one of them from the open source domain, or are they entirely from the proprietary softwares? Because affordability of these tools is yet another crucial, aspect. And we in the library, especially, that for adoption, it really matters. So would you like to throw some light on it? Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, so one tool that I'm completely sure about is Protege, which is open source and available, and it has really good user guides that are available on their website. So that's one tool that I've also worked on and I recommend. Yeah.
Thank you very much. That means we are going to bother you sometime very, very soon to have an exclusive session, Garima. We will be barging in again, requesting you to take out some time for our Indian library colleagues and others, who are there in the institutions and those who are fully. You have inspired everyone, and we may like to, sometime, maybe after a few months' time, we may like to come back again to you, especially to have an exclusive session on that, so that they can, institutions can get fairly well, benefited further. Thank you so very much, Garima. And with this now, so the first question that we are just putting it across to all our attendees, and then we will make the floor open for questions, just to know whether any of our attendees have ever tried any of the tools or the platforms related to knowledge graphs. So we request you all, please kindly let us know, have you used any tools or platforms related to knowledge graphs? You have got two options, the yes and the no. And we would be very happy, because this would give us some kind of an impression, and we would be able to ascertain that how many of you ever have tried out your hands using some of these knowledge graph tools as being shared by our distinguished speaker. There are a number of tools which are being there. Some of them definitely would also be belonging to the open source domain. So have you tried? 36% of you have voted, requesting you come forward and help us in achieving half a mark of 50%, and so that we can take the session further and then can make the floor open. And this would also provide some insights to our speaker, that how well and what are we really doing in our Indian libraries, especially in our Indian libraries here. We know that we do have many other colleagues who have joined from different books and parts of the world, but this would give us some input. So thank you very much. I could see that we have 46% of you have voted, and the ratio is, to tell you, Garima, it is 60 to 40%. 60% have gone for no, they have never tried out their hands on any of the knowledge maps tools, and 40% of them have said that yes. So it's good to see that 40%, in fact, I don't know how far you were expecting this kind of a response. Were you expecting a 40% of the attendees to go for an option yes, that they have explored the knowledge graphs, the knowledge maps in their respective institutions? Do you feel that you were expecting this?
Yeah, honestly, yes, because I felt a lot of time we might know it by different synonyms or different terms. But yes, we all do come across this process as a whole, as a part of our job. So I'm glad to know.
That's nice. Yeah. But you have really inspired many. So the 60% who have said no, many of them are now going to join the other club, the site. That is, they would be, proudly they would say, oh yes, and it's all because of your such a wonderful presentation here today, Garima. So thank you very much indeed for that. Yes, yeah. Thank you. Let's now make the floor open for questions, and we have We have already, it's a working day for Garima. She's in the middle of her work there, sitting at Munich in Germany. And Garima, with your permission, 10 minutes more. We are already over with 1 hour. Just 10 minutes more, not more than that. We won't really take, you have been really, really so gracious in giving us so much of time, making the floor open for questions for our attendees, requesting you, please be very, very specific and ask the question. And even you can use, you can also use the chat box facility to post your question. I have lowered, few of you have, raised your digital hand. I have lowered all of them because there have been a large number of them. And now just requesting you, those of you who are interested to ask a question to our distinguished speaker, Garima Gujral, please raise your digital hand. And now our time starts now. We precisely have 10 minutes with us. You would well appreciate that Garima is at her working desk right now. And we have, she has been very, very kind in giving us 10 minutes. So please just ensure that you ask the question, very in a precise manner, making the floor open for questions. Please raise your digital hand if you may like to ask a question. You can also post your question in the chat box, and we will be more than happy to take the question from there. It's over to you, to all the attendees. While speaking to you, I'm sifting through this entire window to see that who may like to, want us to get connected. Otherwise, please post your question in the chat box and we will take the question from there. And I'm just about to, we are through with this. Yes, we have with us, I can see that we have a couple of our colleagues, who have raised their digital hand, and we are wanting to get connected with Kinari Prajapati. This is for you. Kinari Prajapati, I have unmuted you, requesting you to unmute yourself to ask the question. Kinari Prajapati, I have to mute you. So please, requesting you. And this is for Pragati Dadalwar. Pragati Dadalwar, could you please unmute yourself to ask the question? This is for you, Pragati Dadalwar. Could you please unmute yourself? I believe Priya Singh. This is for you, Priya Singh. You have raised your digital hand. Could you please unmute yourself and ask the question? Priya Singh. I believe let's take up the questions from the chat box, requesting each one of you. Okay, so many of the attendees here have complimented you, Garima, and they have said your journey from a library science student to amazing. It's truly an inspiring one.
Thank you so much.
That each one of us agrees. There is a question coming in from Sumit Sundare, who says that according to you, how the knowledge graphs can be utilized in academic libraries to enhance information retrieval and support advanced research activities.
Okay, thank you so much for the question. I think it's a great question and needs the hour. And on the top of my mind, what comes into my mind is by interconnecting the current research trends, trying to form relationships between the research domains of that academic library that it's offering, what are the students, and trying to understand what are the areas of studies or research for them, and connecting it to all the industry standards, like what are the top, say, journals being offered, or aspects like, for example, Web of Science, connecting them to that. This is something that can be implemented in the library. Offering services like these in academic libraries would be really, really helpful, which will make it very easier for them to retrieve information they're trying to for their research. And databases like Web of Science is one great example for these, where I see it's not only giving us information just about a list of resources, but several data points in terms of the prolific authors, the country of origin, the popular journals, citations, if you look at number of clicks, And if we go more on the metric sides, the H index and so on. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Garima. And there's another question coming in, interesting one. This is from Dr. Vijay Kumar Verma from IIT Delhi, who said, in your opinion, do we still need the formal classification systems like DDC, UDC, and CC, because ontology and taxonomy gives more flexibility and extensive coverage to a particular document? Your take on this, Garima?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. And that's indeed a very interesting question. Because I still feel that is like the core of our taxonomies and ontologies, even though we might feel, okay, our ontologies are more flexible, but the prolific work that was done at that time is something which is still forming the background of it, and should always take that into account, and that will always be our source of reference, even for building these complex systems. We can evolve from there, but yes, the relevance always remains as for me. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. And Garima, you are setting the best of the examples, because being the library and information science professionals, we are the best classifiers for anything and everything. And, this taxonomy, and you are setting up, an example in that, the best example, because being a professional, like library science professional, and now getting into this world for taxonomy and ontologists, being an ontologist now, because, the base has been, you had a knack for, having it was a part of being chipped in, the embedded, qualities of a librarian remains as a good classifier. And, we talk about the metadata creators. So the roles may be a little more realigned, but yes, the base remains the same. The philosophy remains the same. And you are proving to the world that how the library and information science professionals can become, can emerge as the new role takers. And so this is truly yet another fascinating side of it, that how we have to relearn and, the new skill sets. And we are the best ones, to show to the world that library professionals can get into these new roles. So thank you very much for this. And thank you, Vijay, for this very nice, good question. Last question for you. We are just inching towards another 2 minutes to close at 4:10. And your time, it's 12:40 now, I believe, at Munich. Yes, yeah. So another 2 minutes. This is a question from Ibrahim Kamal Azhari. I believe he's from a school, a library, or from a school, who says that how to use knowledge graphs to teach science chapters with animation of the videos, useful for class 5th to 10th students. So this is like for e-learning, for learning, to use the knowledge graphs, and especially for the young children, for the young kids. So Garima, would you like to say something?
Thank you so much again for the question. It's really interesting. And personally, for me, when I see things, I'm able to grasp it much longer as compared to something that I've heard or read. I believe it will be same for students from class 5th to 12th as well. And at the top of my head, I don't know any softwares at the moment, but I can look up for it. But definitely knowledge graphs would be so helpful for them when they try to relate concepts to their day-to-day life, to different aspects. It's something which would go beyond just a bookish chapter that they need to learn and retain to something they'll relate to. As you remember, in the beginning of the session, I was sharing the example of eyes as a body part. When one person tries to pan out different relationships in terms of the usage, the functions, the appearance of eyes, or say, okay, the power or the issues with eyes, who are the eye specialists, the shops for eyes. So all these networks, they're very different concepts, but when we link up, it prevents knowledge in a collaborative manner. And for studying a subject like science, this is something which will be like really helpful to build on their understanding for students. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Garima. And I could see that, this entire chat box is being flooded with the questions. And the questions, there are more the requests coming in. Everyone seems to be, just wanting you to let them know, make them more acquainted about the tools, for knowledge graphs. So I know that it's not the day today, you have really inspired everyone, to now start thinking in the new terms. And that's what has been also the agenda, that, to really inspire them and to sensitize them about these emerging new tools which are there. And we may like to, it's not an occasion right now, but we would formally be requesting you yet again, maybe after 4 or 5 months time, whenever you feel convenient in, or whenever you come over, to the home country and to the home state, it would be a pleasure to have a hybrid program. We would like to have you in person here at DELNET New Delhi, and to have this in-person interactions, and we can broadcast that online in the hybrid to many others, especially focusing only on the tools, because as majority 90% of our colleagues over here have everyone just wanting how to implement those knowledge graph tools in the respective libraries. So, but you have really inspired everyone, making them, so this session now, everyone is really now going to look into what are those tools. And the very purpose for the session, you have really to the core, this knowledge graphs, knowledge maps, whatsoever, synonyms we may like to use it, for the terms which are being there. But yes, and all these concepts coming from someone who has been a library and information science professionals, that has been the true highlight, of how we have to get ourselves realigned to the new roles. You have inspired everyone over here today. And may God bless you. We wish you the very best. And you keep on spreading this knowledge. It's not only, I must say that, it's not that you are a specialist, an ontologist and a taxonomist working on the knowledge graphs. I must say that you are also a dedicated professional who is so keen enough in sharing this knowledge with others. It's indeed so very happy and delighted to see a young, energetic, vibrant professional so much dedicated to the core of sharing that knowledge that you possess with you. Cannot really thank you enough for what you have done for each one of us here in India and also in many other countries. Our colleagues, more than, I believe, 700 plus, have attended today's session. Truly remain grateful and appreciative of your time and efforts in being there with us, Garima.
Thank you so much, and that's a great idea. I'm also looking forward to a hybrid, maybe a hands-on tool demo that we can all do together.
Yes.
Side by side, as I said. Thanks again to all the organizers.
And this is Garima coming to you at Munich. We are going to send it across tomorrow through courier as a token of our sincere appreciation and with all warm wishes.
Thanks
and
a
we
lot.
will be very happy. We'll be really delighted if it takes a position somewhere, at your desk.
Yes,
this is a jewel-studded elephant coming to you to Munich. We are going to send it across, sincerely appreciating your time and efforts and the work, the tremendous work, exemplary work that you are doing it. We feel so very proud of you, Garima. Thank you so very much indeed.
Thanks.
God bless you. God bless you in abundance. God bless you in abundance. Indeed, very, very happy and proud of you. God bless, dear. I would like to now take this opportunity to request, and once again, to also to thank Dr. Manju Kalita and Mr. Mohan. This is for you, Dr. Manju. Would you like to say, a few concluding words to today's webinar session? It's over to you, Dr. Manju.
Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes.
So thanks a lot, Dr. Sangeeta. My intention was bringing Garima on your platform to encourage a young allies professional, but actually works it. And you said what was in my mind, planning, starting or conducting a workshop, hands-on training. Thanks a lot. You just did what I was thinking. If you are conducting, definitely the more audience will be there. Thank you very much for taking this initiative and giving us this platform. And Garima, also thanks a lot, coming on time and doing everything on time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks again. Yes.
So much. Thank you, Garima. And really so very happy, delighted that we are able to cross paths. And it's just the beginning today. We have really made a wonderful beginning today. And our very dear, professional colleague. We are so very happy for you, so very proud of you. Thank you very much, Garima. We are going to really bother you enough. You have to really keep some time, on the agenda for our Indian library and information science professional colleagues and of many other countries, the borderless societies that we believe in. Let everyone be a beneficiary of your such a, wonderful expertise that you're holding onto this. God bless you. Thank you so very much in being there with us. And we look forward to meeting you in person, welcoming you in person, and to have a bigger program, for you here. Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you so much for your time and efforts. And also would like to thank once again Dr. Manju Kalita from Atlas Skilltech University, Mr. H.R. Mohan from IEEE Computer Society Madras section. A very warm special, thanks to each one of our very dear library and information science colleagues and many other colleagues from various disciplines who have been able to join us this afternoon. We remain truly, truly thankful to each one of you. You keep on inspiring us, motivate us to keep on doing, these knowledge enriching and enhancing sessions. Thank you so very much indeed. We look forward to coming back again, and we really would appreciate, your continuous cooperation and collaborations with DELNET. Thank you very much once again, and also my special thanks to my own colleague, Mr. Kushal Goswami, who has been very, supportive in organizing the DELNET webinar sessions. Thank you so much, Garima. Once again, God bless you. And truly remain, appreciative of your being there with us. Thank you so very much indeed. Thank you, Dr. Manju, and thank you once again, each one of you. God bless you. Stay happy, stay blessed, stay connected, and let's make a difference, in the lives of others by being together, working together, marching together, and keep on having that knowledge sharing to go on as an everlasting process. Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you very much. And we look forward to having you back again sometime soon. Thank you, Garima. Take a good care of yourself. You are very precious to us, and you're doing such a tremendous, wonderful work. We feel truly, truly, happy. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, dear. Thank you so much. God bless. God bless. Thank you. And thank you once again, each one of you. Thank you very much. Thanks.